I'm going to check to make sure we're showing up.
Sure.
Hello, come on in. Good afternoon. Yep, I see it's there. Good afternoon. Who do we have on? Where are you located? All right. Just give people a moment to get on and then we'll get started. It's a beautiful day today. It's a little cool, but I love fall.
Fall's one of my favorite seasons.
Yeah.
Cool enough to dress up, but not cold enough we got to cover up.
Yeah.
Or not too much.
I'm gonna get started in 1 minute, regardless of who's on. And then people always come and watch the recording. Hello, hello, hello. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. In 15 seconds. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining today's Facebook Live. Are you ready to be healed so you can live an authentic life? This month, in honor of depression and mental health awareness, I am focusing on healing. Healing is the key for mental and emotional well being. If you tuned in last week, we discussed healing specifically from rejection and abandonment so you can be free. This week, we will be just discussing healing from emotional wounds, which we will hit on a number of areas of emotional wounds and how you can heal from them, such as emotional wounds from heartbreak and relationships, childhood emotional traumas, shame. That's an actual emotional wound. Rejection and abandonment may also come into our discussion. What is an emotional wound? One may ask. An emotional trauma or wound is something that cannot easily be dismissed or forgotten. We call this type of trauma an emotional wound, a negative experience or set of experiences that cause pain on a deep physiological level. It is a lasting hurt that often involves someone close, a family member, a lover, a mentor, a friend, or a trusted individual. Wounds may be tied to a specific event, arise upon learning a difficult truth about the world, or a result from a physical limitation, condition, or challenge. Some of you are living, seeing, and experiencing life through the lenses of your emotional wound. Today, we want to have you get healed. Our guest today that will be discussing on this topic is one of the co authors of the book, The Unchained Goddess, Paula Nicole Good. Paula Nicole Good is an RN and founder of the Good Life Experience. She's a transformational coach and a best selling author. Paula helps ambitious women who have experienced emotional trauma discover healthy relationships with themselves and others and magnetize their feminine energy through transformation coaching. She is a heart-centered strategist who helps women discover what it means to live as their most authentic self and discover intimate connections and healthy relationships. Her teachings through her courses and programs center around subconscious mindset shifting, embodiment of feminine energy, and confidence building and holistic well-being. Paula, thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you.
I am excited to have this conversation with you. Paula and I are both co-authors on The Unchained Goddess. Together, we have so much in common, including being born and raised in Connecticut.
Yes, ma'am.
Although different parts of Connecticut, I feel connected to Paula. And Paula, tell us what led you to becoming a transformational coach and tell us about the Good Life experience.
Well, for me, as you mentioned, I'm a registered nurse and I've been a nurse for about 21 years. And as a nurse, I've worked in different specialties and working with people. I've always had people gravitate to me, either seeking advice, guidance, and I would work with them and talk with them. But unfortunately, as a nurse, I only had a certain amount of time with them. I'd see them maybe for my shift or maybe for a few hours. And when I come back, maybe they would be back, maybe they wouldn't be there the next day. And I often felt like I gave them enough to get started, but I was unable to follow through with them with their progress and support them and offer more guidance. So years later, I had the opportunity to begin coaching from my own coach through my mentor. And the doors just opened up for me. And with that, I realized I could take what I've always done as a nurse, fine tune it, and really create a foundation for people so we can have true transformation. So instead of me just giving nuggets of advice, I could help them get from point A to point B in their life and see them through. And the results that they have are truly amazing. Like, I'm amazed by each and every person that I touch, whether it's from a phone call or from a 3 or 4 month course that they have with me. And so with that, I did create the Good Life Experience. So my last name is Good. And I'm always about living the good life because for me, I had to have my own transformation. And when you get to a certain point in your life and you can look back behind you and say things like, wow, I was there.
Right.
Wow, I can't believe I made it this far. I can't believe I have this blessing. You're living that good life. And the
Wow.
goal of the Good Life Experience is to get you living that good life and to help you in your journey to always have a good life based on what you determine is your good life.
I love that. That's absolutely amazing. I love that. All right. So I defined emotional wounds in our introduction. How would you define emotional wounds and what are the signs that a person that may be having some emotional wounds?
Okay, so with emotional wounds, and it can also be referred to as emotional trauma, it's basically an event that happens where we have a high emotional response to it. Now, it can be as intense as a situation where you're dealing with abuse, or it can be as little, or we think it's little, as when we're a child and someone turns around and yells at us unexpectedly. That moment creates a high emotional response, and we put it in our subconscious and we carry it around with us. And if it has happened during our childhood, which a lot of emotional wounds do, we create a life around that wound. And let me see, let me pull my notes up here, but it shows up in ways such as low self esteem, lack of doubt, you doubt yourself, lack of confidence, It could be like you have flashbacks of the situation. It keeps replaying, maybe not all the way in full, but something may trigger it. Triggers, someone says something to you and it triggers a feeling that's related to that emotional wound. That is a sign. Lack of emotional regulation. If you find yourself getting angry all the time, or if you use food to regulate your emotions, so emotional eating. A good one is sleeping. A lot of people suffer from insomnia, and it could be related to a lot of things, but oftentimes it is related to emotional wounds. And that may come in the form of nightmares, bad dreams, anxiety, or you just have that busy mind because your mind's always going about something. You might have extreme sadness. On the opposite end, you may have emotional numbness where you don't feel
Mhm.
anything. And another telltale sign is you just don't feel secure around people or in your relationships. You just have this inability to trust people regardless of who they present themselves as.
Wow. Yeah. So those are the signs. So if you have any of those signs, then you have joined this live intentionally. So stay tuned to get the tools to help walk you through, and you can even follow through with Paul or myself to get coaching that further help you along as after we done after we're done with this live. So, as I said, Paula's actually one of the co-authors in the Unchained Goddess, and in her chapter, she talked about being unseen. Paula, what can you build upon that chapter and what it means when you say you're being unseen and lacking confidence? How did that relate to some emotional wounds that you may have experienced, and how did you overcome that?
Okay. Well, for me, being unseen started when I was a little girl. I was that quiet girl. I was the youngest of my siblings, and I didn't have much to say. It's a little awkward sometimes. I was soft spoken, and oftentimes I was criticized because of that. Or when I would speak up, no one would listen. Or when they would listen, they criticize. And that played out throughout my lifetime, into my teenage years, into my young adulthood, and then it started changing when I went from my college years into my adult years, my professional adult years. But that childhood wound came from a lot of different things. Oftentimes, my parents didn't have a loving relationship. They had that relationship where they had a lot of arguments, and as a quiet child who's an empath, I absorbed those emotions and those feelings. I brought a lot of that into me. And I would fear those loud voices and fear that yelling. And it created a lot of self doubt within me, in addition to people not listening to me. So I had the low self esteem, I had the lack of confidence, I had the low self worth, I lacked a voice, I didn't speak up. I didn't have boundaries as I grew into adulthood. I didn't develop boundaries because boundaries requires you to speak up and say
Mhm,
no and not be worried about other people. I became a people pleaser because I didn't want conflict. I wanted people to like me,
mhm,
all that stuff. So I carried all of that into my adulthood, and that was that emotional wound that I carried um, from my childhood. But then when you carry that as an adult, you open the door for more wounding because you create a space for that to come in. So,
mhm,
with the lack of boundaries, I had the toxic relationship that led to a toxic marriage. I had the toxic friendships because, once again, I didn't speak up. So then I absorbed the negativity from that, and that further lowered my self esteem, my self worth, my lack of self doubt, all that stuff. I isolated myself, so I didn't have support as I entered into my professional career and grew and believed that I could do something. So I had a lot of that. But what actually helped me, and I do mention this in the chapter, when I became a mother, I just had this superpower.
Yeah.
And it just came out of nowhere. And, I was a labor and delivery nurse for the longest time. So I saw motherhood created every time I showed up at work, but I never associated myself with it until I became a mother. And with that superpower, I knew that I was given the role to lead so my daughters could have a good life. But I knew in order for me to do that, I had to make changes within myself. And it was there when I started to make certain changes. So with the birth of my first daughter, as well as the pregnancy of my second daughter, it just kicked me into gear for major transformations that took a hold of me. But the most important thing that I did is I learned to be my most authentic self. So
Yeah.
that quiet girl now has a voice, but there's times where I don't speak because it's not necessary.
Necessary. Exactly. Yeah.
That awkward girl, I still might be awkward, but now I surround myself with people who don't care,
Hmm.
and I could just be my awkward self, whether I'm talking about the science of grass and why it's green and how it breathes, or something else, because I am that person that gets into the whole nerdy stuff of science and
Me
everything.
too.
But you've got to create that good life where you can be yourself, but it starts with you recognizing that you have that problem. That not that you're broken, but you have some things that where you're undeveloped, and putting forth the work to begin to develop those things so you can become that person that you desire to be.
Wow. You said so much, Paula. And as you were talking, and little things just came up in my mind, and I just think about my own self and when I was emotionally wounded. And at the onset, I didn't not even realize that I was emotionally wounded. And I didn't even realize I was perceiving life through these emotional wounded lenses. And when triggers would arise, I didn't realize I was responding to certain things from this emotional wounded, that emotional wounded part of me. So when you were just talking, I was just thinking about like where did it when did I realize, this was, and it was through my self-awareness,
Mhm.
going through this process of self-awareness, that I started to be mindful of, my thoughts, like if I had a trigger, like what I was thinking, what was rolling in my mind. And if if I was feeling a certain way, I would be mindful of my emotions, and I would question, why am I feeling this way?
Mhm.
What triggered me to feel this way? And then I began to unravel, and I started visiting, like you said, a lot of things start in our childhood. And I realized that a lot of things that happened in my childhood was impacting me as an adult.
Yeah.
And it's so common, like with so many of my clients, it goes back to childhood. So
Mhm.
for those who are parents and you have young kids, take heed of this, because you can help your child not be emotional wounded, by not doing certain things,
Mhm.
and being mindful of their emotional health.
Absolutely.
Because I'm telling you, if it's not addressed, it can turn into so many things. You already talked about it, depression, low self-esteem, and all a whole bunch of things. And you even went into how it can interfere with your sleep, and you can have nightmares and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's very serious. And I mean, I can contribute, that into my depression when I was depressed at one point in my life, because of me not feeling valuable, and not feeling worthy, um, having those emotional feelings. And I
Mhm.
shared that in my book. But I love that you said your why was when you became a mother.
Mhm.
And that was exactly it for me. And you said it was your superpower. And I
Yeah.
love that you said that, because it literally was like a power that arose in me when I had my son. And here I am, a teenage mom, don't know. I was like one of those teenagers that babysitted everyone's kids. So I literally already had that nurturer in me. And we're women, so that kind of comes with being a woman. Some women don't have it, but
Yeah, right,
that's a
right.
different topic.
Yes, not today.
But when I had my son, like you said, it was just like something just arose in me, and it was like it gave me something to live for. So it was no longer a matter if I wanted to live. It was like I have to live.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like whatever that I thought I couldn't do before my son, it was like I'm going to do it. Like it was a push, a drive in me. So that was
Hmm.
really good that you mentioned that. That actually goes right into my next question. Self love, self worth, and confidence are all impacted when we are emotionally wounded. What
Yes.
can the people watching this live do to start a journey of self love, identifying their worth, and gaining their confidence?
Well, the most important thing that I think people should do first is recognize that you're not okay.
Hmm.
And a lot of times we want to glaze over things or put a band aid over things, or, a lot of people say, I'm just going to push through it, ignore it. And a lot of times we don't even want to identify that something that happened actually hurt us.
Hmm.
So the first thing is recognize that you have been hurt, and that can be in the form of humiliation, injustice, betrayal, abandonment, rejection. Those things are real. Those things cause hurt. They cause pain, and there are umbrella terms for so many different situations. So
Yeah.
first, allow yourself to admit, I'm hurt, and then in that hurt, like you said, ask yourself the whys. Not why did I get hurt, but why, like where you are now, why is my behavior or my actions or my thoughts, why is that tied to that pain? And that's when you start undoing those little tangles. And from there you need to recognize that regardless of how you were hurt, now it's time to put yourself first.
Hmm.
It's time to recognize who you are, recognize your strength as an individual, recognize your uniqueness, and really start to give yourself the love that you desire. A lot of times, we want to say love hurt us, and love doesn't hurt. It's other things that hurt, such as the humiliation or the lies or the abuse. That's what hurt us. The
Yeah.
people who hurt us, we may have loved them, but it wasn't the love that hurt us. So now we have to start perceiving love as its own superpower, and we have to turn it in on ourselves. So we have to love ourselves in the same way we expect other people to love us. We have to love ourselves in the way we expect those who hurt us to love us. And then we have to forgive ourselves, because a lot of times we blame ourselves for maybe we allowed things to happen, or we think we allowed things to happen. We blame ourselves. Or maybe, like for those of you who are in a relationship, maybe you stayed longer than you should have. I know I did. And you blame yourself and you have regrets and you wish you could change things. Forgive yourself, because you can't rewind time, you can't go back. What you can do is look at the silver lining and pull the lessons from that time, make better decisions, and make a better life. And
Hmm.
you do that by, number one, like I said, it's the self love, then self care, which is different from self love. Self care is how we treat ourselves, it's the standards we set for ourselves, it's the boundaries we put forth for ourselves, and it's also the values we establish for ourselves. Understand what your standards, boundaries, and values are. And that's something I teach in my courses, because it's so important that you develop those, because it's in those three things that help you establish boundaries that teach other people how to love you, how to respect you, what you're willing to put up with. And that's your self-care. Self-care also comes in the form of treating yourself like you're a gem. If
Yes.
you want to feel good, then do something that makes you feel good. If you want to earn more money, have a better position, have a better house, live in a different place, go on a different vacation, experience things that you've never experienced, then this self care actually puts you in a situation where that can happen. And that's believing that you absolutely deserve everything from all those things you want. And you're willing to do what you need to do to get it. That's self care. And then also making sure that you are so sure in yourself that these people who want to hold you back, these negative people, these toxic people, they're not in your life because they're going to get in your way. They're going to be crabs in a barrel. They're going to hold you back. And then you have to have those boundaries in place to say, no, I'm going to do X, Y, Z. I know you don't like it. I know you don't care. I'm not going to explain it. I already told you once. I'm going to move forward. And that's a combination of the self care and the self love. But you have to be willing to make yourself a priority in order to do that. Recognize that you deserve it and give yourself that love. And overall, you have to do the work to heal. You have to have that inner healing. And that can be in the form of therapy, coaching. If you can't afford that, if you can't make those investments, there's books, there's podcasts. YouTube is great. I have a YouTube channel. I know several of the other co authors have YouTube channels. We're on social media. We have groups. We have content for you to take in so you can at least get started. So,
Yes.
but you have to get started. And I know I said a lot of different things.
No, that's good.
All in all, put yourself first and do what's needed for you to make that bold move so you can start healing.
And I'm going to put some double lines under put yourself first.
Yes,
That goes back to the whole thing where you got to put the mask on first before you can help someone else.
exactly.
So put that mask on first, help you first. And then when you're healed, then you can what is the title of this whole broadcast? You can live an authentic life. And
Hmm.
in living an authentic life, then what you've overcome, what you survived, what you used to hold you back, and now it's behind you, you're going to
Yes.
find yourself helping someone else.
Hmm.
It's like a domino effect. When we become healed, we become healers.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we become part of the healing process for someone else. Because at the end of the day, we're all here for someone else. We're not here for ourselves.
Hmm.
So you said a lot of good
Yes.
stuff.
And I also want to add something about fear. Fear is big with people,
Mhm.
and I just want to just have a discussion about fear because I feel like the more you know, the better you'll do.
Yes,
So, fear is a natural response we have as humans, and it comes from the natural time when we didn't have homes, when we didn't have safety, when we were out and we had to worry about a lion chasing us, right? So, you see that lion, you go into your response, fight or
right.
flight,
Yep.
and you're either going to run, fight, flight, freeze. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Run, fight, or you freeze and then you get eaten by the lion. So we have that response, which is a natural response. But now we don't have lions chasing us. Well, majority of us don't have lions chasing us. We might have to worry about a car hitting us or maybe a dog or something like that. But a lot of our fear that we have comes in believing ourselves, and it comes from the subconscious area of our brain. And I talk about the subconscious and conscious because, as a transformation coach, in order to have that transformation, I help you with subconscious reprogramming by bringing what's in your subconscious to your conscious, making you aware. And then once you're aware of stuff, you can't help but to make the change. So
Exactly.
with fear, fear sits in our subconscious so heavy. And the acronym I use for fear is false emotions appearing real. Because we have these emotions within us that come from our thoughts, come from ideas, come from things that happened in the past. Maybe when you were in fifth grade, you did a book report and you stood in front of the class and you stumbled over a word and somebody laughed at you and you felt humiliated, right? So now you have that humiliation with you. And then 20 years later, you're an adult, you have to give a speech at work or you want to apply for a job or you see this person and you're interested in them, and you want to speak to them, you want to say something, you want to catch their attention, but you don't because you have that fear. You're afraid of being humiliated because that humiliation you experienced in the fifth grade stuck with you. So now you're taking that fear from that moment and carrying it with you, and you're telling yourself, oh, if I move forward, they're going to reject me. They're not going to listen. They're going to wonder, who am I trying to apply for this job? Why is this woman saying hello to me? Why would she think I would even want to be with her? And so you hold yourself back, and it's this fear from that emotional wound. And we have a lot of these fears, and that was just one example. And you have to allow that fear to come forward, because that fear, it's an invisible wall, it's an invisible hurdle, but you have to cross it. You can
Mhm.
only do so much to make it go away or to minimize it, but the truth is you have to push through it. And you will feel fear as you start doing things different in your life, as you start moving forward, even as you start healing. The moment you decide to hire a coach, after you get off the phone with that coach, after you've made that investment, you actually have a fear of, did I do the right thing? Am I going to get something out of this? It's a fear that many of us have. I know I've had it when I've invested in a coach, but you push through it because the thing is, there is something on the other side. You may not know what it is, but it's got to be better than what you're experiencing. So you have that fear of the unknown, but you got to get over there to that unknown. And it's in that unknown place where you're actually going to be creating that new life. So just remember that fear is invisible and you have to push through it. And when you push through it, then you've overcome a challenge you've never overcome before. And the more we overcome challenges, the stronger we get, the more resilient we get, the more confident we get. Our self esteem grows, our self worth grows, because now we know, hey man, I crossed that challenge. And now here I am. I'm I'm on the other side. And look, I'm creating this life. And that's what happened with me. I had so many fears. Even and I'll just talk a little bit about my story. I was with my children's father for 18 years. We were married for 10 years. And I remember the day I decided that I was going to leave. I had so much fear, but I asked myself, why do I fear leaving a toxic relationship? Well, it's because it was all I knew. That was my norm. And I had to do something different. I didn't know how my life was going to be. And I remember standing there and I had a choice to make. At that very moment, I had somebody asking me to make a choice, and I had to say yes or no. And I said yes, because that was how I was going to move forward. And I was so scared. I had so much anxiety. I didn't know what was going to happen next. But now I look at where I am and I'm like, if I had said no, my life would be so different. I would not be happy. I would not have I would not have anything that I have in my life right now. I would not have that good life that I've created if I had allowed that fear to hold me back. And it was a simple yes or no question.
Yeah.
So, for those of you who are faced with that fear of moving forward, and going out of your comfort zone, understand that your comfort zone is just a chapter, and it's time to start the new chapter and
Yeah.
start writing it. And you're able to write your new story how you want to write it. And yeah, you're going to have some bumps, and you just write about those bumps and you cross those challenges, and they create more resilience and more strength and even more stories and more opportunities for you to help others and help yourself.
That's so good. I'm so glad that you brought up fear. I know that that is like a big hurdle to
Hmm.
cross. And like you said, it's invisible. I love that you use the acronym false evidence appearing real, because
Hmm.
that's exactly what it is. It's false.
It's
And
false.
it's appearing as if it's real, but it's not real at all.
Hmm.
So that I'm so glad that you took that time and really spoke on that, because I know that that was like one of my biggest things that I had to overcome, even like business wise, even in corporate, um, get in certain positions, that that self-worth piece part that we talked about, that came into play before my healing, where I didn't think that some I would be accepted, or that people wouldn't find the value in me, and that fear came up, and also just the fear of failing.
Yes.
In my chapter, I talked about the word curses that were spoke over me and how I was not going to be anything. Pretty much is
Yeah.
what it was. And although I proved that to be a lie, that it was that did not, that wasn't my portion, I still had that, like you said, in my subconscious mind. So although I was overcoming and I was breaking every barrier that word curse tried to place around me, I still had it in my subconscious mind. So it having that in my subconscious mind developed that fear
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
for me to even exceed. And one of the things for me, and just speaking with other people that's experienced some of the similar things, I became a perfectionist.
Yes.
So although I'm not perfect, I did things in at a certain of excellence than the average person. So someone's great was my not that great.
Yes. Yep.
And I still didn't look at it as excellent. I'm
Mm-hmm.
still trying to outdo that and outdo that. Now it was good, and now I look at it now as that turning things around for my good type thing. Like it created in me a level of excellence
Yeah.
that is, something to keep. I don't want to
Right.
lose that.
Right. That level of standard. Yeah.
Yes, but at the same time, um, I had to I had to find balance in it because um, even in operating in excellence, I still didn't feel worthy. I still didn't feel good enough. I still
Mhm.
was fearful
Yeah.
of failure when I'm doing great, So I love that you brought that up. That's
Mhm.
awesome that you talked about fear. That is a key obstacle that we'll need to go through
Mhm.
um, as we're overcoming and becoming healed and whole. That is a key piece of getting rid of that fear, realizing that it is false.
It is false.
It looks like it's real, but it's false.
It's false.
It's not real at all. So
And
that's
there was two things you brought up. So the other thing with fear is oftentimes it'll show up in the form of distraction,
mm-hmm.
or excuses. Like
Yep.
we know we need to do something, but all of a sudden we get busy. We're too
Mm-hmm.
busy. Oh, I can't sit down and fill out this
Oh yeah, that was
application, or I need to do my resume, but I'm too busy to do my resume.
procrastination. You get
Yeah, yeah.
procrastination.
So
Yes.
we get distracted, we procrastinate, we do that. But then on the other end, what you were talking about being a perfectionist, oftentimes when we're not fulfilled on the inside, we try to make everything on the outside look good.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Yep.
so we want it to be perfect. We're high achievers. We're getting those degrees. We are getting those higher paying jobs. We're joining the organizations and shooting for the leadership positions. We're doing this, we're doing that, we're doing this. And it's great because ambition is great, success is great. However, when you're doing it because you're avoiding what's in here, what's lacking in here,
Yes.
that's when it becomes a problem because then we start putting ourselves on the path to burnout, to stress, which leads to chronic diseases and chronic issues down the line. And I just want to touch on the strong, independent woman syndrome, where we can really take ourselves out by doing too much. And this is where we're getting stuck in our masculine energy and we are not taking time to just be within ourselves, to fulfill ourselves, to tap into that love, to tap into that flow, to just stop, to give ourselves that self love, to give that selves our self care so we can balance things out. Because, yes, you can be that 7-figure CEO.
Mm-hmm.
You can also be that woman who's sitting down resting and making sure that you are taken care of.
Yes. That's so good. Everything that you said, because that was actually just me. My sister used to be like, I had this Bill Cosby family dynamic idea. Like I wanted everything because growing up, that's what we looked at as a perfect
Yes,
family, the
sure did.
Cosby. So my sister used to always say that, but it was true. I was trying to build this outside perfection when inside I was still hurting. I was still wounded.
Mm-hmm.
And it took for me to really go through that process of healing to not even have some of the desires. Like, of course, I still want to be successful. I want certain things, but that does not define me.
Right.
Those things don't define me. What I have don't define me. And it's a beautiful place to be when you can have and not be like depending on what you have is what defines who you are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That feeling on the inside that you have when you're not healed, um and that brokenness that you feel when you're not healed, you always gravitate to do something to make your outside look better, like you said.
Yes.
Getting degrees, that was me. Going for those high paying jobs, yes, I was exceeding even before I even got a degree. I was at a degree position. I was making degree money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yes.
And then when I got to that place where I was making degree money, like when I would apply for a job for a higher role, I'm like, okay, I got to get this degree. That's what even made me get
Mm-hmm.
my master's, because it was like, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, because I was looking at myself as not worthy, not valuable enough, and those things would make up for those things that I was feeling inside, when
Yes.
that was really not the thing that I needed to do. Not more credentials. I needed to go inward and work on the
Mm-hmm.
inside. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff. I'm loving it. So, what are some steps that people viewing this Facebook can start to take right now to start on their journey of healing?
The biggest thing that I like to tell people to do is get a journal and start writing. Get your thoughts out of your head. Think about how you talk to yourself. What are you saying to yourself? What are the thoughts you're having about yourself? Write them down and then ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Write it down. Start getting that out. Then, from that uh, information that you're getting about yourself, this is data collection that you're having for yourself. I'm also an IT analyst. So I'll speak of, the data collection piece. So you're getting data on yourself, you're getting data on your subconscious and everything. Then you can start to formulate a plan of, well, what is it I need to do? What, for example, my thing was I didn't think I was good enough. There's these self-limiting commands that we have, and there's about 6 or 7 of them that I talk about. But one of them is, I'm not good enough. And then you have to ask yourself, well, why don't you feel good enough? What are the things that happened in your life that made you feel like you weren't good enough? Then what can you do so you can believe that you are good enough? So you write down the things where you are great. What is it that makes you special? What makes you unique? What makes you powerful? And then you write affirmations for those. For me, I am trustworthy. You tell me a secret, I'm gonna keep it. I'm gonna hold it to my grave. You know. I'm intelligent, and I had to actually believe that because I didn't believe it for a long time. But I'm intelligent. I could read some complex information, and I can regurgitate it in a way where someone who would never even read it could understand on a ninth grade level. Um, I am friendly. So you think about those things that make you good, and you say those things to yourself. But they're not just words you're saying to yourself. These are coming from your heart. This is the love that you have within yourself. Where you're digging into your heart. Find that heart space where you feel good. Think of things that make you feel good. For me, it's being the mother to my children, or helping somebody, and I really remind myself of those feelings, and I start saying my affirmations, because you have to put that power of love behind it, and it's that power of love for yourself, so you can start believing it, and then continue to write in your journal. And your journal is your own personal story, because then you're creating a book, and you're creating a book of your progress. So you can go back 6 months from now and look and say, oh, wow, I was in that place. But look
Mhm.
at all the work I've done. I've gotten into this better place, because a lot of times we don't see our growth. We don't see how well we're doing. We don't see our strength. But
Mm-hmm.
now we're writing it down and we're collecting our own data. So we have our own information to say, oh, wow, look at that. Look at how I was feeling on that day because of this. I had that same situation happen and I handled it so much better.
Yeah.
So now you can see that. But I always say it's really getting into that subconscious and seeing what you're thinking. So get those words written down. Seek out support. Like I said, it could be therapy, it could be a coach. If you do have that friend, utilize them for support. The thing about friends is we don't want to dump on them because they're not in that position to really receive that. They have their own things going on. So finding someone who's able to carry you through those heavy things. Like I said, books, podcasts, YouTube has a lot of channels, but you really want to get in there. And another thing that I have all my clients begin is meditation. Meditation has changed my life. My emotional wounds created a high level of stress and anxiety, and that anxiety created some illness within me. I was at one suffering from insomnia. I had the anxiety attacks. I had elevated blood pressure. I had irregular heart rate. I had the weight gain, the emotional eating, and everything that led to other things. The fatigue. When I started meditating, I was able to control my anxiety, reduce my anxiety. And now I'm at the point where now I know when my anxiety is kicking in, the moment it kicks in, and I can tell you exactly why. And
Mm-hmm.
then because I know why, I can work on addressing that situation. It was meditation that helped me understand what it's like not to have anxiety. And I know anxiety, not, excuse me, I know meditation is difficult for some people who've never done it. A lot of people say, oh, I can't do meditation because I can't focus. Well, you're the type of person who absolutely needs meditation if you're unable to focus. Start with guided meditation, and you can easily search on YouTube guided meditation. Start with a 10-minute guided meditation. Do it every day until you train your brain to focus, and
Yeah.
you will start noticing the difference. And I promise you, you will feel the difference, you will see the difference, and meditation does impact our physiological health. So please get started on that and journaling and saying your affirmations.
Yes. Good stuff. I'm telling you, journaling has been my tool. I've been journaling since I've been a teenager, and I think that was kind of the tool that I didn't know was a tool that even helped me not allow the things that were going on really impact me and moving forward and,
Right.
and overcoming like I have. So I'm glad that you mentioned that in meditation. Man, when I picked up on meditation, because I'm one of those who mind runs 100 miles per minute.
Me too. Multitasking in
I'm
my
thinking,
head.
yes, I'm multitasking in my head. So literally, I have to do one if when I need to find peace, and I have to do one to get my good sleep, to just dump my head and slow down. So I do it in the evening. Meditation is so good,
Yep. Yes, it
so good
is.
for you, and it's so good for even the process of being mindful.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you can, like you said, do a 10-minute meditation, and that can help actually identify what's in your subconscious mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you're in that meditation, when especially when you first start out, all of those thoughts that are roaming, all of that self-talk that you
Yep.
have shows up in
Mm-hmm.
that meditation. So after a while, as you, like you said, continually practice meditation, you'll start to eliminate some of that self talk. You'll
Mm-hmm.
start eliminating all of that chaos that's running through your mind. So that's good that you brought that up. The other thing for me, um, not trying to make anyone religious or anything, but prayer is like
Yes.
I have to pray every single morning. That is like my start of my day, and it's I believe been my power to really get through the where I am now. It's been essential to my healing.
Yes, I
This
pray
is
all the time, all
yes,
throughout the day. Oh,
yes, all throughout the
God,
day.
please.
Like Paul said, without cease.
Yes.
Clear my head, pray out loud, so
Yep.
that's been another thing. And I love that you said affirmations. At the onset, sometimes when depending on how deep your journey is, because some people's healing is different. For everyone's healing is not the same, because there's people that's been through a lot. And sometimes I don't even like to complain because I know that there's someone that's going through way worse than I am. But I said that to say, you know, we're depending on where you are in your healing journey. um, you might have to take more time in certain things. You might have a longer self-awareness process. Don't beat yourself up if you find yourself still reacting to certain triggers. Take it
Yes.
one day at a time. This is your journey
Yes.
at your pace.
Mm-hmm.
And that's another thing that we have to do, in our on our healing journey. We have to stop trying to um, listen, stop the noise,
Mm-hmm.
stop worrying about what people think of you, stop worrying about how you appear. Just that's a part of getting into being authentic. That's why
Mm-hmm.
the title is Healing from Emotional Wounds to Live an Authentic Life. Because when you stop worrying about people, then because when you're not healed, whether you believe it or want to believe it or not, you're literally living to please someone else.
Yep.
I lived 40 years trying to please someone else, trying to fit in someone's mold. When I broke that mold and I found my peace and myself, true self-love, because I didn't realize that there was still, even though I don't say I had really low self-esteem, but there was still some lack in my self-esteem. There
Right.
was still some lack in my self-love and my self-worth because I was unhealed. It's impossible for you to be entirely um, filled with self-love and entirely know your worth and still be unhealed. It's
Yes.
impossible. In order to be truly living authentically, you got to be whole and healed.
Yep.
And it's a journey. Like, I'm not saying I'm all the way there either.
Yep.
I mean, you're going to constantly have triggers, but the good thing about this process is you'll be in the know about yourself. So
Mm-hmm.
when those triggers arise, you would have developed tactics to
Yes.
help get you through that trigger. You would
Yes.
you would identify, oh no, like I'll have a little self conversation out loud instead of allowing that internal
Mm-hmm.
conversation that happened to build my subconscious mind with something that I don't want. I'll be like, oh, not today.
Mm-hmm.
No,
Right.
Shanika, that's not where we going. No,
Mm-hmm.
because it's almost like it's a test. Like the moment you feel like you're there, right? You're healed, you're
Something
gonna get
comes
a
up.
test, a trigger to test you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's gonna be someone familiar.
Yep.
It's gonna be some for me. My biggest thing was rejection and abandonment.
Mm-hmm.
So it would always be someone familiar to try to reject me in
Yeah.
some way. But now when it happens, I'm like, you're bad, you're
Mm-hmm.
lost. You
Yes.
don't have to love me because I love me. You
Exactly.
don't have to accept me because I accept me. I know
Right.
my worth. If you don't want me in your life, that's your loss. Because I
Yes.
know I'm all that.
Yes.
I'm worthy. I'm valuable. I'm a great friend.
Mm-hmm.
I love hard. You gotta look at, like you talked about. You have to look at what are your qualities. Get to know yourself. Get
Mm-hmm.
to know what's inside of you. Like you said you're positive. You're friendly.
Mm-hmm.
Me too. I love hard. I'm very loyal. And like you said, I can keep a secret. I got secrets that's going to leave with me on the grave. Nobody will
Yes.
never know them. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I'm a very good friend.
Mm-hmm.
I all my closest friends are my sisters. I don't even look at them as friends. That's my family. You know.
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about going through this journey at your pace.
Yes.
The objective of this broadcast, why we're here today, is to help you get healed.
Mm-hmm.
And we want you, one, to first start off by taking that mask and putting it on yourself.
Mm-hmm.
It's time to dig in deep. Take these tools that we've given you, whatever resonated with you during this discussion, start from there. Like Paula said, there's so many resources out there on YouTube. You can Google, you can get it through books. All of those things were my process.
Mm-hmm.
I watched a lot of positive videos. I even do TED Talks. I love TED Talks.
Yes.
I read mostly everything that I read, the literature that I read are self um, motivational and self empowering books.
Mm-hmm.
They're books that uplift me, that give me a drive so that I can push past, whatever I need to push past.
Yes. Yep. And one thing I also want to say is, as you go on your healing journey, it's not pretty, it's not easy, it's challenging. You're going to have your days where those feelings are going to come up and you want to cry. Allow yourself to cry. Let
Hmm.
those feelings come out. You want to have anger, let that anger come out. Do it in a safe way. Punch a pillow, scream into a pillow, do what you got to do. You will have these emotions come up, and that's okay, because at the end of the day, you're human. You're
Hmm.
not perfect. And whether it's your first month of your healing journey or 10 years down the line, there's no such thing as perfection.
That's right.
You are going to have your ups, you're going to have your downs. And just like Shamika said, when you have those triggers, when you're healed, you're able to handle them better. The
Yes.
sting of rejection is less. Like, you might still feel rejection, but it's going to be for that moment instead of for the next 20 years.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that's the difference. So give yourself grace and allow yourself to be human.
Yes. I love that. Allow yourself to be human.
Mhm.
And listen, that's actually a key part of authenticity,
Yeah.
being human. So that I love that you said that. So, what are three things, Paula, that you would like to leave with the audience?
The three things I would like to lead is, number one, like I've said, make yourself a priority. Self care is not selfish. Don't let anybody tell you that it is. I don't care what your role is in your life. I'm a mom. Yes, I put myself first. I don't put my children down, but I can't take care of my children if I'm not okay. And that was a lesson I learned when I was actually in the emergency room, because I had been putting everybody else first. And now I had to have a doctor take care of me. And my daughter was on the other end of the phone crying, wondering if I was going to come home. So, yes, I learned the hard way of the importance of putting yourself first, because you can't be there for those that you love if you can't be there, period. Make yourself a priority. Number two, learn to love yourself. Set that standard of love for how you love yourself, because when you start loving yourself at a higher level, you automatically are going to expect other people to treat you the same. And when you do that, it's easier to set those boundaries. Okay. And then number three, make time to heal. Stop avoiding it. Stop distracting yourself. Stop running. Find that support system. Like I said, we've given you lots of different options. If you want to reach out to me or Shamika, we are here. Um, like I said, I hired a coach, I've had therapy, and I've done all the things I've suggested to you all. I don't tell people to do what I haven't done or what I wouldn't consider doing. And they've all helped me. And it's a process. So make that time, do your work, because it is inner work that starts in here, and hold yourself accountable.
Awesome. Good stuff. So, Paula, do you have any programs or upcoming events that you want to share with the audience? And how can people connect with you?
Okay, so right now I have two programs. My one on one coaching program is a 13-week program. It's called the Magnetic Blueprint. And with the Magnetic Blueprint, help you amplify your feminine power so you can attract the healthy relationship you desire. And with that, we work on the most important relationship that you will ever have, and that's the relationship you have with yourself. Because when you find that love, that peace, that self-care, all of that, your self-esteem, you build your confidence, and you set those boundaries, your standards, values, and all that, and you start having that relationship with yourself, you find out that your life changes and your relationships change, because how you deal with people change. So we go through that. Like I said, it's a 13-week one-on-one coaching program. I do have a course for those of you where you're like, I'm on the fence, really want to see how I want to work with Paul. It's a 2-hour course, and it's called The Art of Feminine Magnetism. And it teaches you how to become the magnetic feminine, because really getting in touch with your feminine side allows you to be magnetic. And for those of you who are seeking out a relationship, or you want that healthy relationship, or you want to improve your relationship, you work on becoming magnetic. And it's really tapping into your feminine energy, and that's not gender specific, and balancing out your masculine energy, because it is a balance. So that's a 2-hour course that I have, and it's self paced. And I am working on doing a group coaching program in the near future. And if you would like to be in the know about that when it comes up, you can join my Facebook group, which is called The Magnetic Feminine. And I do trainings in there. And I'll share with you any events that I do, any programs that I have, and any opportunities, and people in my group or on my email list get that information first. So the Magnetic Feminine is where you can work or come in and see me on a regular basis. And as of right now, if there's anyone here who's in my group, I know I've been kind of quiet the last 2 months, and I apologize for that, but I'm going to have a lot of things coming your way.
Awesome. Well, I am just so grateful for having you as a guest, Paula.
Thank you for
We've only
inviting
touched
me.
on a piece of what Paula has inside of her. If you want to connect, go ahead and reach out. As she mentioned, she has two signature programs. She has her Facebook group, The Magnetic Feminine. I'm actually a part of that group. I'm gonna actually be posting all of her contact information on my Facebook group and the 360 Health Movement group, as well as my Instagram business group. So look for that information so you can stay connected, follow her, and see what she's going on. Thank you, Paula, for being a guest. It's been a pleasure having this conversation with you, and it is my prayer that you guys who are tuned in, whether it be on Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube, that you have been inspired to start your journey of healing so that you can live your authentic life. I wish you
Absolutely.
guys a wonderful Saturday. It's all right here where I am in Ohio. It's a nice fall day, a nice little breeze. So I look forward to enjoying my day as well. Y'all have a good day. Peace.
Bye.